So this gives you a basic geography of the area. So we've got Walvis Bay here. This road coming down here then curves round and comes down to Sesrum down here. Windhoek is over here. Etosha is up here. And this is the bottom, well, there's Damaraland in the centre there. So we're on the coast. So in terms of towns, yes, we've got Walvis Bay and Swakopmund. The next town along the coast is Henties Bay. And in terms of towns along the coast, that's it. There is nothing. There's no other towns along the coast. Then we've got our Windpomp, which used to be called Mile 14, Cape Cross, Mile 108, Terrace Bay, all the way up here. Jackalsput, Mile 72, and Torra Bay are the seasonal ones. And then, yes, they're the two gates on Skeleton Coast National Park. And here's Horicas. Yeah. It's those junctions are really difficult to scale. So yes, Palmvag's up there and Horicas is here.
I don't know, I see the two yellow dots you were talking about.
Yes.
I was wondering where they are.
So they're the entrance and exit gates to the Skeleton Coast National Park. So we're going to start right at the bottom, just a general average day at the beach of Skeleton Coast. And it gives you some idea as to why it's called Skeleton Coast, because I'm sure you've all heard the story, Skeleton Coast, shipwrecks, people dying, littered with bodies. No. It's whale bones from the whalings, the whaling season that used to be along the coast, and the seal bones that litter the coast. There is a lot of shipwrecks along the coast, because this is literally, I am standing on the beach filming this. So I'm not out at sea, and then I fell in the sea. But it gives you an idea how rough the water is, which is why there's a lot of physical shipwrecks along the coast. Because as we'll see in some later pictures and videos, because you've got the hot desert right there and the cold Atlantic Ocean with the Benguela current coming up from the south, you get this hot, cold, and this fog comes in and out. And this is deep water right close to the shore. So a lot of shores in the fog, navigating incorrectly, get pushed onto the beach. Having said that, some of the wrecks that you go and see nowadays were actually not caught like that. Most of the wrecks that you go and visit along the coast in the southern section were actually boats that lost control at sea and then were just pushed onto the beach. Some of them were wrecks that were being towed from Cape Town north to be repaired, and they're forever going to be loved on the Skeleton Coast. As you can see, this is the beach down at Windpomp. This is just a mini video, all self-contained camping units now. They've all got a fridge, gas, toilet, running water, electricity, and their own big spot where you can get 2 or 3 vehicles in. They've also got a really nice entertainment area. I paused that brilliantly, didn't I? Where they've got an entertainment area with a bar, restaurant. They do sell basic supplies. Usually on Friday and Saturday through most of the busy season of the year, they have entertainment at night, which is really nice. So it's quite a nice social place. The accommodation is just camping at the moment. They do have plans to build rooms there. They should have built them pre-COVID. COVID put paid to that. So hopefully in the future they'll actually have some beach chalet rooms there as well, but we'll get that as it progresses. At the moment it's just camping, but they try and make it the nicest camping on the Skeleton Coast. And it's good facilities. The advantage is that it's only 14 miles, thank you, from Swakopmund. And there's not a great deal of camping in Swakopmund, especially that we can work with, and it gets full very quickly. So it's close enough to Swakopmund that you can stay there and camp and drive into Swakopmund and use all the restaurants and facilities and activities, but far enough from Swakopmund that it's peaceful and quiet. But it's a beach location. Apart from December, which we'll handle entirely different, a lot of people don't spend a lot of time along Skeleton Coast. There's 3 main reasons to go to Skeleton Coast. Someone give me any of the reasons. Why would you go to Skeleton Coast? Anybody? Fishing. Fishing is the big reason that most people spend any length of time on the Skeleton Coast. Any other 2 reasons? Sorry?
It's cooler.
It's cooler, yep, so sort of escape from the heat of the summer. And that's why December, January is so packed, because it's the hottest time of the country. So most of the people from Namibia, in the Central Highlands, go to the coast in the hot summer because it's you've got this mist that comes in, and 21 degrees is like the hottest it gets along the coast. So it's really nice relief from 40-degree heat in Windhoek. Third reason. It's its position, so partly its location, because when most people are doing a tour of Namibia, it's inconvenient or convenient between the desert, Swakopmund, and Damaraland and Etosha. You have to pass through it. So a lot of people just use Skeleton Coast as a passing through, and to say they've been to Skeleton Coast. Henties Bay, and this pretty much sums up Henties Bay. The only thing that's missing there is petrol. Camping, fishing tackle, internet. There is actually a sort of shop there. There's a couple of restaurants that are mostly seasonal, and there's a fuel station there. But pretty much that's Henties Bay. Most of Henties Bay is made up of holiday homes that are rented out seasonally. So yes, we'll come up here. Oh, sorry, actually, I just skipped past Jackal Spuds. We'll come back to there in the future. So you then come to Henties Bay. Henties Bay is the first place where a lot of people can experience Skeleton Coast by drive along this section, and this is your first non-park turning into Damaraland. So a lot of people who are doing a trip through, they don't need to come all the way up here to experience Skeleton Coast. You can literally drive along this section here. You will see Skeleton Coast, and then you take this, you go fuel up in Henties Bay, then you take the right-hand turn. It's the only turn in 300 kilometers, so it's quite difficult to miss. And that then comes into Damaraland through the mountains, in between, and this comes right into Twyfelfontein area here, and Horekas, and then they come into Etosha this way. So that's just past Henties Bay. Coming along the coast, we've then got mile 72, again, just open in December, January, a very, very basic campsite on the beach. Then we come to Cape Cross. Oh, and in that gap is one of the shipwrecks I was talking about. So this is a fairly modern shipwreck, got shipwrecked there in the late 80s, and was actually a fishing vessel that was being towed from Cape Town up to Angola for repair. And there was a storm and it broke its tow line, and it got pushed onto the shore there where it's forever lived. It's now a bird colony. But you can see it's quite close to the shore. So you can see here, this is deep water, and there it's grounded. So you can see the sailors got stuck, and you can see how close it is to the shore. Is becoming quite a popular spot now. And the nice is you can actually photograph it really nicely from the beach. It's not far, you get a good view of it, get a look at a wreck, see the birds flying around. What has happened though, you can see, is quite a few people. When I was there this time, everybody was being harassed with people trying to sell stuff. So I don't know where these people came from, considering we're like now 70 kilometers from the nearest town. There's people here, all these people standing around, coming up to your car and trying to sell you stuff. So it used to be a completely deserted area. Every other time I've been there, I've been the only person there. But now it's got a bit popular, so you have to recommend, if people are going there, close the car doors, close the windows, lock your car doors. It's not become a problem, but you don't want to put temptation in people's way. This will give you an idea of what the road is like as drives. You can see the road is in nice condition, but it is just compacted salt with sand on top of it. So it is very, very smooth, which does lead a lot of tourists to speed on it. Now that's generally not a problem, but sometimes you get the sand on it and you can skid on the corners. Thankfully, there's very few corners. It is literally a long, straight road. Yeah, a car. I've been driving up and down this bit of road for 2 hours to film a car. But this is pretty much what the whole of the Skeleton Coast Road looks like. There is not much variance. You've got the coast on one side going inland. You can just see the sand dunes over there in the distance on that side. It's not a very well marked out road, which again is another reason not to drive on Namibian roads at night. There is no light out here, and there's not really much in the way of road markings. But that gives you an idea of what the Skeleton Coast Road is as you head north towards, this is going towards Cape Cross past the shipwreck now. And as you see, the road signs are, well, blown away. There's some more road signs, so you can see exactly where you are. And just in case, you're lost. The nice thing is that there is literally just a one road up the coast. So a lot of people, though, do like to try and cut down onto the beach, because there's little roads down there. If you're going to go down to the beach, you've got to be confident you must do it in a four-wheel drive. The beaches are tidal. The beaches along the coast here are also treacherous because the tide comes under the beach, not over the beach. You know, traditional, a lot of beaches, you get the tide coming like this. Because of the steepness and the sand on the Skeleton Coast, the tide tends to come up like this underneath the beach. And often on a low tide, a low incoming tide, the water doesn't come through the sand. It sits underneath. So it looks fine. You drive on it, you're and yeah, people lose vehicles every year, particularly on the December, January, when you've got fishermen driving up and down. They get stuck in. Once they're stuck, they're stuck. From Henties Bay to Cape Cross, you've got mile 72. Oh, actually, you know that little sign that had the gap in it? That was the turning for mile 72. What was happening was that they, because it's only open for a limited time of the year, and when the sign was still up, people were still driving down. They were driving down to the campsite and then getting stuck because it's a very sandy area. And because nobody else was going down there, they were then stuck 5 kilometers from the road and stuck in the sand. And of course, nobody was going there. So they have taken the signs down. I believe, to be confirmed, they do put them up when the place is open. Unconfirmed on that. But yes, we've now gone to Cape Cross. Henties Bay has a fuel station. You can buy fuel at Cape Cross, but it's not a petrol station. It's literally just the lodge's own reserves will sell petrol, not diesel, because they aren't a petrol station. They've got petrol for their generators, but they don't have diesel. And it's not a guarantee. They don't have to sell it to you. They do it to you as a favor. So it's not a fuel point. When you're going north along the coast after Henties Bay, does anybody know where the next guaranteed fuel point is along the coast? Sorry? None. There is none. There is no guaranteed fuel along the whole coast. Terrace Bay does have a petrol pump, but it's about 80% guaranteed. And often they will limit the amount of fuel. And that's it. If you're going inland, Horacas and Kamanyab are the next two garages you'll find. So fuel management is quite important. But Cape Cross. Cape Cross is a nice lodge. We will quickly look at the camping there. But the camping is nice. And because it's on Skeleton Coast, they've built walls, because pretty much the Skeleton Coast is windy all the time. So you've got a braai area, electric, water, shared ablutions with hot water. The campsite set up away from the beach as well with these high walls. So even when it's windy, especially if you're on a ground tent, you actually can catch the wind. The problem is roof tents tend to stick up a little bit and they still shake a bit, but that's Skeleton Coast. And this is the beach at Cape Cross. When you're camping at Cape Cross, you are allowed to use all the lodge facilities. So they've got a restaurant, a bar, really beautiful beachfront. This was on a nice quiet day on Cape Cross, so you can see you can go up there paddling if you want. They've actually got a bit of sandy beach here, which is nice. And so you can use all the facilities. And the lodge is actually a quite nice option for accommodation as well. Although I'm not sure what sort of price range it is. I'll have to check on that. But the camping is nice, quite good value. And you can use all the facilities. The reason there is a lodge there, in the middle of nowhere, is the Cape Cross Seal Reserve that is right next to it. They are all seals.
Looks like rocks and stuff.
Yeah. You'll see when I disify you completely, and this is the walkway we can go to seals. I'll calm down a little bit, just getting the drone under control here. So you can see, yes, these are all seals.
What?
It's the largest, as you can see them all moving and see them all on the rocks. It's the largest seal colony in Africa for Cape fur seals. Oh, it absolutely stinks. And they make a sound like sheep. They like bleat. It's so they're very cute to look at, but boy, it smells and it's noisy. They're also quite aggressive because it's a breeding colony. So in the breeding season, up to 500,000 seals are there. So all the male bulls, which spend most of their time at sea, then come onto land, then they fight for dominance, then they get to mate, then the little pups come along, then the males fatten up and then go south down toward the Atlantic, down to the Arctic. And this is the walkway which has got little gates on it where it's safe to walk. So you can walk pretty much into the colony. When it's at high season, let's see how far, just pause it there. All of this area and this area, you can actually see where it goes to there, is covered with seals. Just absolutely covered. I mean, literally, one of the biggest dangers for baby seals is being crushed by other seals in the breeding season.
Is there a magnet for sharks?
No. Sharks are generally not cold water creatures. There is, however, whales. Now, there's not many whales hunt seals, but the orca whale does.
Oh, so they do get visitors?
Yes,
Nice.
yeah. But generally they're migratory because they don't live along that coastline. So from that point, from the sea perspective, the seals actually have quite a nice life along there. It's really good marine life,
Predators.
really good food. On the land, though, it's a different story. Because you've got brown hyenas, spotted hyenas, lions, and jackals will come in and prey on them. And occasionally, you can be on here, and actually I had experienced it at Torra Bay further north. You can be on the walkway here, and a lion can be walking in here into the seal colony. And it's just looking for either weak ones or dead ones already, and it'll pick up the carcass and walk off. Although lions do prefer it a little bit wiggling. The hyenas and the jackals, they'll take the carcasses. And then there's lots of predatory birds come in as well and take them. But yes, the biggest danger to seals is other seals, especially when they're younger. There's just so many and they're packed into such a tight space. But yes, you can go on the walkway. You must be careful with the seals. They are aggressive and they are a lot bigger and faster than you think. Even on land, seals can move at quite a pace, especially the mothers protecting their calves, but also the males. If the males, occasionally, generally the males only stay around these areas, surrounded by as many females as possible, real studs. But occasionally they'll wander up here. Once they get past here, because obviously they can go round, and they get stuck up there, they get really aggressive. And this is where the car park is, just here. And occasionally people have been like stuck in their vehicle because the male's like right outside looking, you know, and I mean, when I say male, you're looking at an animal that can grow up to 1.5 ton. So that's heavier than my combi in weight. And it's probably as long as the combi in size. These males, they grow enormous, they really are. And of course, they are also contributors to why it's called Skeleton Coast, because so many of them die and the bones are then washed up on the thing, so it's more contributing to the bones. So that's one of the reasons for going up Skeleton Coast, but it is quite a limited reason, because you can, as you can see, here's, there we go, we're going to get to the car park now. And this was a picnic area that they built there. Now, you're going to picnic in front of a minimum 50 to 100,000 seals.
How far is it from the lodge?
It's 7 kilometers of driving. Geographically, if you walk down the beach, it's only 2 kilometers. But from Cape Cross Lodge, you're not allowed to walk north along the beach, because that's where the colony is. You can walk south from Cape Cross Lodge, but not north. Because the beach, Cape Cross Lodge, is literally just down here. But obviously, it's too dangerous for the to walk up, and you're going to interfere with the seals. So, but you have to drive out of Cape Cross Lodge to the main road, go 0.5 kilometre, and then drive all the way back down again into the Cape Cross Seal Reserve. So that's the Seal Reserve. And look how calm and nice the water is. An unusual Skeleton Coast day. Okay, so then from Cape Cross, we're then going, it's about 30 kilometers, and we then arrive at mile 108. Mile 108 has sort of been upgrading itself recently, which is really nice. And we'll look at a couple of quick videos. Oh yes, mile 108 used to be on generator, and on most maps, and even on Google Maps, is shown as having a fuel station. It does not have fuel. There never was officially a fuel station there, but the locals the people based there would sell fuel to passing tourists to make a buck. But now they've gone completely solar. There's no generator there at all, so there's no fuel there at all. So a lot of people looking on them, I mean, when I was there were some people who called in there to get fuel, and there was no fuel. Then they ran out of fuel, and I had to drive them to Cape Cross, get some fuel, and bring it back. So it's on solar panel, which of course for this area is absolutely perfect. These are the campsites. This is the basic campsite. So the basic standard campsite at mile 108 is basically a marked off area, which again, I hate these posts. My shins just shiver every time I see them, because in the dark, you always walk. I mean, there's a perfectly good gap, but you always walk into one of them. But they're marked out. They have a braai pit, and that's it. They're shared ablutions, and as you can see, the ablutions, I think there's an ablution block a bit closer here, but the ablution blocks are dotted along the thing. There's no hot water in the ablutions. It's water supplied. Oh, actually, I have put donkeys in some of them. But generally wouldn't rely on there being hot water. There's no electricity in the campsite. There's no Wi-Fi in the campsite. There's no cell phone signal in the campsite. And it stretches along the beach, and I believe they have 150 sites. So it is big. But apart from Christmas, they hardly have any visitors. So usually during the tourist season, when internationals are coming, because fortunately or unfortunately, that time of year is not the best time of year fishing along the coast. So there might be the odd fisherman going along there. So often you can camp there and you will be the only person in the campsite, which is sort of nice and spooky all at the same time. Again, like all of Skeleton Coast, it's windy, and you can see they've basically got rows. You've got a front row, a middle row, a third row, and I think there's a fourth row up here, and a road going in between. As you get closer to the beach, it does get sandy. So you can go there and stay in a normal car, but then you'd have to stay at one of the top-end campsites so you don't get stuck in the sand. And there's always going to be a wind coming off the sea. So they are the basic campsites. Remind me to go through the facilities that are available at AKS. So then we've got the second type of campsite we've got is the same campsite, so an area marked out on the beach. This time you get these blocks which hit just slightly lower on your shins rather than at the top of your shins, to mark out your spot. A braai pit, no electricity, but you get your own ablutions. So it's a private ablution, so there's 4 sets of ablutions in here, which has got a shower and a toilet and a water tap inside, all heated by donkey. So you get hot water, and basically when you check into one of these campsites, you get a key to your personal ablution block. So it's not on your campsite, but it is exclusively for you. Does that make sense? Yeah. And they're dotted amongst the normal campsites. See.
I've done like a lot of lodges on these little campsites, and they always say they are donkey heated.
What is a donkey?
No. Actual donkeys?
No.
Please explain how that happens. What is the water?
Okay. Yes. So it's not even spelt donkey as in donkey. It's D-O-N-K-I. But it's donkey. It just makes more fun to actually tell tourists that outside you have a donkey running around to heat the water. I mean, that sounds much better, doesn't it? But actually, all it is... I don't know if you can see on the screen. Do you see this metal thing here? Now, you know how your water is heated in your house? It's in a tank that's stuck on the wall, and we either heat it by gas or it's got an electrical element like a kettle that sticks in it and heats the water up. If you took the electrical element, just took the metal tank and stuck it over a fire, and you light the fire heats the water in the tank. As it gets hot and evaporates, the hot water rises and goes through the pipes, and when you turn the tap on, the hot water comes through the tap. So basically it's a fire-heated tank. So they do heat up quite quickly, and generally here they will come and light the donkeys about an hour before sunset every day, so you can have hot water in the evening. So basically it's a hot water tank where fire is built underneath.
So you don't have to bring your own wood or whatever,
they will provide that. If you want to do extras though, and a lot of people do, because I mean they're not going to put a lot in, so if you want more showers or things, you can set it whenever you like. Yes, Michelle?
No, my question was answered.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Thank you.
You're well. Yeah, so don't worry, we're not importing donkeys to... It's a very effective way of creating hot water very simply in a remote location. where there is no permanent electricity or other methods for it. So the third camping place in mile 108 is these new ones. Now you're going to have to consult with and Sipo and Vusi on the names of these, because I always get the names wrong of these.
The previous one was that has a private solution. It's called a self-contained.
Yes. So you've got camping, self-contained camping, and now this one, which is called. There we go. And basically, you've got your campsite, nice big campsite, and this one, because you're paying more, you don't get things to smack your chins on. You just get but you still get a nice big area. There are a row of them right along the beach. They're beachfront, and that ablution block, again, heated by donkey. This is the donkey here. You can see the fire goes in the bottom there, heats the water, and then it pipes into the shower and bathroom. It's your own ablutions, and you don't have to walk to it. It's on your camping site. It does have a solar panel producing light, but not for charging devices. So there's no plug points. Your own braai, and in here is a toilet and a shower. And again, they're nicely spaced out, and as you see a line of them. That is all of them. That's all they have. But again, they've got a shower, toilet. And here's the donkey. So you put the fire in there, and that heats the water. And there's an outside as well, and you're right onto the beach.
Can you swim in the ocean?
Can I ask that question before? I can't. Yeah.
It's too cool.
It's a drag.
Help yourself.
Along the whole Skeleton Coast, or just that?
That, I would say, is an average day along the whole of the coast. People do swim here and there. People actually surf. But in general, the water is very, very cold. I mean, even when it gets hot, it's like 12 degrees. Through the year, when the Benguela current's up, it's only 4 or 5 degrees, so it's really, really cold. And it is generally rough. The other thing is, the beach goes...
Don't forget to mention the Mariana Trench storm.
Yes. And that's every year, though, people swim and people drown. Last Christmas, 12 people drowned. And that was actually at Henty's Bay.
Just last week at Wolfish Bay.
Another one even at Wolfish Bay.
There's just 2 friends that were in the water.
They were sitting in the water on the beach. And the wave came in, dragged one, whether one or both of them, just one got drowned, just one. So the two of them sitting beside each other, the water dragged one in, she drowned. So, yeah, it's unfortunately, but when it's like a nice hot day, it's so tempting, and the water can look so beautiful. But, okay, so that was the campsite that I can't remember the name of. So that's the camping options you've got at mile 108. Then you've got these, they've called them fishermen's huts. They're very, very basic. Not all of them have these because they put them all with this nice little area in front, but most of the canvas has been blown away. But they're basically just a hut to protect you from the wind. But they've got a toilet inside, a shower. They provide beds and mattresses, but they don't provide bedding. You have to take your own bedding, so either sleeping bag or whatever to go with it. But again, they're decent mattresses. It's run on solar, the lights, but the solar is just for the lights. I'm not sure if we've got it in this video. But yes, a little sink, an outside area. But the solar panel is connected to a car battery that sits on the bathroom floor. So it is literally just there to power the lights so you can see what you're doing. You can't recharge devices. So they're like a step up from camping because they've got a storage area, they've got their own inside sleeping, so it's quite good when they're windy, but it's by no means luxury. So that's the 4 types of accommodation at mile 108. Mile 108 camp itself, you can access in a normal car to the camp where the solar panels were and to the first layer of campsites. Like these self-contained units, you probably can't get to in a normal car. You'd have to park a bit further up and walk down. So they're a bit of a waste. The camp itself has Wi-Fi at the reception area, which is about a 10-minute walk from the first campsite. So the reception area is up here on top because there's a water pump there where they pump water. And then you walk down the beach and all the accommodation is laid along the beach along there. So it's quite a walk from there. So there is free Wi-Fi, but it's very slow. You know, you might send a message and hope it gets somewhere. There is a basic shop there. It sells crisps, chips, beer, and whiskey. Oh, and maybe some soft drinks, if you're interested in those sort of things. It's a fisherman, exactly. There is also 4 deep freezers for storing fish in, or your food. But they're communal. So you go in, you label your fish or whatever food you want, and you put it in the freezer, and you hope it's there when you go to eat it later. Mostly fishermen are really great characters. They don't pinch each other's fish. But it is, there's a lot of fishermen also want to know that their fish are going to be safe. Answer, no guarantee. There is communal freezers, and it's limited space, first come, first serve. So the good thing is...
Catch the big shark who had it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like... I'm going to try and put it in my... and shark fishing, you were saying about shark being predatory. Shark fishing is one of the big game reasons for fishing along the coast, but they're not sharks that hunt on seals, interestingly enough. But shark fishing is a big pull along the coast there, and Kabeljau.
They do the big 5 in Namibia.
Yes, rhino, elephant, buffalo.
Isn't shark fishing catch and release?
It should be, yes. Shark fishing, there is strict limits on how much you can catch. And size, because you obviously can't catch under a certain size.
I didn't know that shark fishing is a thing.
Yeah.
Where do you think shark from soup?
I've never heard or
Well, China.
Have you ever had smackaroos or fish fingers? Read the ingredients. Smackaroos, the brand Smackaroos. No way. But sharks are getting endangered now.
Yeah.
So it's catching and releasing.
Yes. So yeah, from this sort of fishing, they wouldn't eat a shark. It is catch and release. Yes.
But it's no.
Yeah. It's the last smackaroo he's ever going to have.
Namibia in general still does a lot of trophy hunting, or allows a lot
Yes.
of trophy. They have
Both
no
on land and in
restriction.
sea as well.
Except for the rhino, they have no restriction on what they can hunt.
Yeah.
Nice shots.
Depending on how it's been farmed, should we say,
Yeah.
and brought
So,
up.
I mean, they've got so little going for the country, or pool financially and economically.
Also, it's sort of in their blood. It's how generations have grown up. And it is changing a lot now, because a lot of the hunting farms have now become animal preservation farms. Because it's not popular to be a hunter nowadays.
Oh no.
Without being in a certain community. Yeah. Anyway, we will not get sidewinded into that one. I'll just check. Are we still rolling here on camera? Are we? Oh my goodness. And have I been talking for very long? Don't answer that question. Of course I have. Nice compact talk today, by the way. Okay, so that's mile 108. So you've got the Wi-Fi, it's round solar panel, there's no fuel available there. So if you are at mile 108 and you want fuel, you have to drive to Henty's Bay. Yeah. Or if you don't want to go back, you can drive to Horicas. So you're probably going to go to Henty's Bay, stock up on supplies, and that's why Henty's Bay is good for fishermen. There's lots of fishing tackle stores and things like that. You also, if you fish anywhere along the coast, you have to get a fishing permit from the Marine Authority, which is at either Windhoek, Swakopmund or Walvis Bay. And then you've got a fishing permit. And that does outline how much you're allowed to catch, the weight, the types of fish. Fish that are edible above a certain weight you're allowed to keep and cook. Anything else is catch and release. So the next place to stay from mile 108 is Torra Bay, which is again open only in December and January, and then Terrace Bay. But first, you actually enter the Skeleton Coast National Park. So although all of this is the Skeleton Coast, the national park only starts here, goes inland, and goes all the way up onto the Angolan coast. So, Angolan border. So that is the Skeleton Coast National Park. So you then come to Ugab Gate. Does anybody know why it's called the Ugab Gate? It's very, very tricky and technical because the Ugab River runs into the sea there. So the Ugab River comes from the hills of Damaraland and runs down into here, into the river. And it's right at where the river comes in. They've built a little bridge there, and it's called the Ugab Gate into the Skeleton Coast Park. When you get to... See?
The southern section is still a protected area, it's just you don't have to pay park fees to
Yes,
go through it.
yes. Yeah, so the whole coastline of Namibia is a national protected area. Every single kilometre. It's the only country in the world that has its entire coastline protected under national park status. But only certain parts of it do you pay to enter the national park. So yes, so this is all technically protected area, but you only actually pay to go into the national park of this section going northwards. So, for years and years, in fact, only until last year, and it had just opened when I visited, thankfully, this used to be the Ugab Gate into Skeleton Coast National Park. So this is the main road north from Skeleton Coast. And these are whale bones, and that is part of a whale's backbone. So you know the little bones that we have in here? That's a whale equivalent. Now, if you look at the width of there, that's like wider than a vehicle. So and that's the sort of bones they find washed up on there. These bones, particularly the whale bones, the Himbas used to love them. They still love them because they make their houses out of them. So they go to the beach, they gather these whales. The men do like hunting parties, or used to, because a lot of the coca felt, which is slightly higher, I know we're wandering here, they would actually have a party where the men would go to the coast and basically carry as many of these bones as possible from the beach back to the villages to make their huts from. So, because there's less wood up there. Plus, whale bones are very, very strong, very durable, and they're lighter than wood. Because as they get older, they get pitted and they get hollow. And the Himbas are semi-nomadic. So they would literally then disassemble their huts, carry the bones, and they would carry the bones with 2 or 3 people and hang the rest of the hut over the bones between them, and then walk along to the next destination, assemble the hut again, and off they would go. So it's, just a small factor there for the Himbas. And a lot of the Himba people huts still, you go into them, you're miles inland, way away from the coast, and you'll go inside and you'll see the huts inside, all beautifully got these huge whale bones in. So this was the gate for many, many years, and it had the good old skull and crossbones on it. And this gate is closed at sunset and only opens at sunrise. So you can't access this gate at all it's just like all national parks. However, they have built a brand new gate. Yeah. So they've left that gate there because it is quite iconic. It's got the skull and crossbones on it, and it's quite nice. But now there's a new gate. It was opened, when I was there, I was really lucky, I went there, and it had been open 3 days. So it's a very, very new gate, and already a truck had driven into that on the other side and broken it. And again, it's one of these things that, like, not much comes up here, but this is the only, they haven't put an access round for anything that's higher, because they've built it quite high, but still something managed to hit it in the first week. But this gives you an idea of what the road is like up north. This is the main road going north. But now there is this nice little centre. There's a little bit of information there. That's where you go in. There's a parking area up here. There's also a picnic area up there, and there's toilets. And then you go in, pay your park fees, and the park fees are per 24-hour period. And then you head that way. That's the road north. And then you're up here. Now, you can only enter the gate under 2 conditions. One, if you're going to either exit the Springbok-Wasser gate here or the Ugab gate before sunset, or you have a reservation, confirmed reservation at Torra Bay or Shipwreck Lodge. If you turn up at the Ugab gate, or if you're coming in from Damaraland at the Springbok-Wasser gate, you don't have a reservation for anywhere inside the park, and those 3 places are the only 3 places inside the park. And it's after, well, depending which way, 1 hour to sunset in this case, they won't let you in the gate. because you can't get anywhere and leave the park. You can't stay inside, like all national parks, you can't stay inside the national park unless it's an authorised accommodation after sunset.
I think it's 3 o'clock.
For the Ugab Gate, yeah. And it might be about the same or a bit less for the Springbok Wasser Gate. But even if you have a booking, if it's too late, they won't let you in the gate. They're fairly flexible up
If you're
there.
just passing through, coming in and going out,
Yes.
then
They're very strict on there.
3 o'clock.
Yes, yeah. But even if you're here and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon and sunsets at 6, they won't let you in, even if you have booking at Torra and Terrace Bay. Having said that, the people are very nice at the gate. I mean, it's an incredible remote area. The lady that I spoke to, who was very proudly showing me around here, remembered me from 30 years ago when I used to go through. She's the same lady working at the gate for 30 years. Her family's all grown up and things now. But yes, so that's Ugab Gate. And they've kept the old gate there, and then this is the road north. I don't think I zoomed in enough to give you some idea of the distances on this sign. But you can see how the road is. It's not bumpy, not smooth, but it's salt with a layer of sand on it. Can I see the distances here? No, I can't reach out. But yeah, so that's the Ugab Gate. As you can see, there's not a great deal there. Again, there's no facilities like shops, fuel, or anything at Ugab Gate. It is literally just a gate, museum, pay your entrance fees, that's it.
So presumably now, like people used to go up and take a photo at the gate, presumably you can't do that now. You have to enter the park.
Technically. I don't think they would actually bother too much there. I mean, to give you an idea, when I went into the office to pay my fees, because the gate's wide open, it's not like there's nobody at the gate going, stop, the gate's wide open. So I drove up and I parked, I did my photographs, I went into the office inside and waited 5 minutes before somebody appeared. And then, because I mean, it's like the gate, well, you get a rough idea just from the video. Maybe I was there in a fairly busy season and they were having maybe 8 vehicles a day through the gate. So it's, yeah. And they're fairly relaxed. And again, like I've always said, for any people, but also the people of Namibia, in our case, but any people, the nicer you treat them, the nicer they are to you. If you're friendly and nice to them, you say, oh, can I go and take pictures of the gate? They go, yeah, off you go. If you're mean to them, they go, yes, pay this first. North of the gate, this is what it looks like. So
Road.
this is the road,
Is that a tall road?
salt road. There's no tar roads in Skeleton Coast, they're all gravel and then salt.
And then you say it gets slippery from the mist from the ocean.
Yes, because the mist rolls in. The mist can roll in up to 50 kilometres inland. We're about 20 kilometres from this coast here, because it verges inland a bit round the Ugab River, because it has to cross the river, goes round these mountains and then back out on this side again. But yes, the mist can make it slightly slippery first thing in the morning. The other thing you will always contend with on this road, especially if you're in a bigger vehicle, is wind. There's always a wind either coming off the land, a hot wind, or coming off the beach, and it's often a very, very strong wind. But this is the sort of terrain you're then going to be driving through as you go up Skeleton Coast. There is just nothing. Nada. So that's this stretch along here, and Ugab Gate, and this is a long stretch. I think, if I remember correctly, it's 122 kilometres from Ugab Gate to Torra Bay. And pretty much that video I just showed you is what it's going to be like for 122 kilometres. And there is just nothing there. Then we get to Torra Bay, which is only open in December and January, and has some poor guy who basically sits there for the entire rest of the year, just looking after it and stopping it getting blown away from the wind. Has 120 campsites, if you can call them campsites. This is the main building. There's an ablutions block. That is your camping.
All
So,
those ablution blocks.
yes. Because they're only open in December, January, and as the guys will tell you on sales, you can't get a booking here for love nor money, can you? Have we actually made any bookings at Torra Bay successfully? You have? Oh, well done. Because generally, to give you an idea, in the December, January season, there's over 2,000 people stay there.
How many ablutions? Just
I think there's 12.
yeah.
But why do they choose to stay there?
It's a very good question. It's the fishing. The really only real reason to go there is you hate your family, or you love fishing, or it could be a combination of the two. Yeah, so it's actually got quite a nice atmosphere. As you see, beautifully laid out, service was good, food was really good here. If you think where we are on Skeleton Coast, all the way top here, at the top of Namibia, I had some of the best food, NWR food, in all of the country here. Some of it was fish, which, but even I had a nice steak here as well. But yeah, you can actually a lot of people just spend hours and any famous people or sports team or big fishermen, they write their things on, so it's quite nice. Occasionally they clean it and then it starts again. Right? But by the bar, there's a whole list that's reserved just for catches, and people write their catches on. And there was 2 great ones that I saw, and actually while I was there, one got put up on the board. From the shore, somebody caught a 45-kilo cabillaud. And 45 kilo, they have a little crane, because normally when fishermen you pose with a fish. There they've got a crane so you can pose with your fish. So, because obviously they get sharks a lot of the time, but this cabillaud, it was huge. So the guy had very proudly written, my best catch ever, 45 kilo cabillaud. And the next day he wrote underneath it, even better day, 45 kilo French chick in chalet number. We'll not talk about that. But yeah, so it's actually quite, and the people are quite interactive there. The staff also very interactive and nice there. They were sort of coming around and asking what I was doing, am I fishing, do I need any help with things like that. So and they serve breakfast and evening meal. They don't serve dinner there, because they'll do a packed lunch if you request it the day before at an extra cost, but they only do breakfast and evening meal because pretty much the place closes down during the daytime hours. They do have a well-stocked shop. As you can see, all the important things, snacks and alcohol. But they do also sell a lot of other things as well, cleaning stuff, deodorants, cold drinks. This is the fuel station. So it's one pump in its own little cabin, stuck beside the reception area. The fuel is a bit more expensive here, but it is in the middle of nowhere. And it is generally kept well stocked because it is their lifeline for everybody up there. And you basically turn up and you go and find someone for reception who then comes and finds the petrol attendant there. So that's the rooms, and they do also have 2 beautiful big beach houses for groups, a 10-sleeper and a 12-sleeper. Was it 8 and 10 or 10 or 12? Thank you. Which are equipped out fully self-catering, because the lodge itself is just rooms. Those 2 beach houses are self-catering with multiple bedrooms, kitchen, braai area. They're very nice. Have we ever booked any of these, do you know? Yeah. They must be quite popular because they're really nice.
Yeah, I think the video makes it 10 times better.
Must be the video, person who made the video must have done a good job of that. But again, sheets and towels supplied, multiple bathrooms. It's still fisherman style, it's not luxury, but it is still really nice. Any questions about the accommodation and facilities at Terrace Bay? They even got the name right. This is what north of Terrace Bay looks like all the way to the Angolan border. This, by the way, is Terrace Bay airstrip. And this is the road. And you can see just here now the sand dunes are starting to encroach closer and closer. There's 2 reasons you can't go further north than here. First of all, there's nothing but Angola, really. And secondly, the sand dunes then come right close to the beach. And unlike Sandwich Harbour, it's impossible to actually drive through the sand dunes. There is literally no space between the sand dunes and the beach at any tide, because up here the tide doesn't go in and out the same way. But up in this top area is an area that gets confused. You can see the big sand dunes here starting to build up. Gets confused with Walvis Bay because they're very similar in their aspects, but a lot of early National Geographic and famous pictures from Namibia came with the elephants climbing down a sand dune and lions and giraffe climbing down a big sand dune and drinking seawater because they are salt adapted, and that was when they first started discovering the desert adapted animals. That happens up here, not in Walvis Bay. It doesn't happen in the south. So the whole Sandwich Harbour bit, you don't see any of the big animals coming down. There's no desert adapted animals down there, and there's no elephants down at Walvis Bay. All those areas, if you want to see the animals drinking from the sea, you have to come up here. And they have lions, elephants, giraffe. They're all desert adapted. So that's only in this area, in north of this area. You will see them in this area as well. And from the Ugab River upwards, the Ugab River is very famous for the desert elephant, desert rhino, and desert lion, and desert giraffe. People go down the Ugab River to go and find all those animals. But this, you can see the airstrip there, look. You see, you'd be comfortable landing on that, wouldn't you? See, they have actually tarred about 100 metres. So,
Because it says I need star.
but yes, obviously the airport is there for private planes only. It's, or scenic flights. And you can see how the desert is now really encroaching. And you can see how different the desert up north is to the south. Because there's no iron in the desert on the northern side as there is in the Namib Desert. Namib Desert, that very red colour, because it's got the iron and copper ore in it. On the north, the actual sand dunes, which I've missed now, are much, much paler because there's no iron ore in them. They're also much smaller and different shapes because they can't grow as big because they don't have the strength in the sand particles. But that gives you an idea. I literally drove as far as I was allowed to north of Terrace Bay, and this is the end of the road. So you can drive up there, and all the routes that go in are basically fishing points where people can go and fish. Now that is only just under 20 kilometres north of Terrace Bay here. So it's literally about here. Now, there is the two things we do get asked for, I don't know if we have actually had any for this, but Mao Bay, not to be confused with the Mao Bay down here. Mao Bay is an old oil derrick wreck that was built to mine on the coast and is now a complete wreck. You cannot access from this point onwards along the coast by yourself. So if you want to go to Mao Bay, you have to rent an official guide with their own vehicle and get all the permissions to go up to Mao Bay and see it. And also that's generally combined with animal spotting, that's where you can go and see the sand dunes going down into the ocean. But it's expensive, tricky, and takes a lot of time to organise, which is why the Walvis Sandwich Harbour ones have become so popular, because you can see the sand dunes coming to the sea. But this is where you go to see the animals on the sand dunes coming down to the sea. And then you have Shipwreck Lodge up here, which, what prices we were looking at Shipwreck Lodge the other night, was it? About 37,000 Rand per person per night. But it is full board, and also they have to send you in. So you actually go to Terrace Bay, it's the closest you can get to yourself, and then they come and pick you up and take you from Terrace Bay to the lodge. So it's a very, very remote lodge. There is nothing there but the lodge. And they've actually made the rooms like little ships that have been wrecked on the coast. And they're quite luxury, very nice, very isolated. Not really a fisherman's place, although you can fish from there. It's more sort of tourist place than a fisherman place. And they're the people who are promoting Shipwreck Coast, because it's their brand.
How far is it from Terrace Bay?
To Shipwreck Lodge, it's about 250 kilometres. It's yeah. Well, if you get Torra Bay to Terrace Bay, it's just under 100 kilometres, to give you a scale.
I'm curious, what if someone who has no idea that you cannot drive there shows up there? What stops? Is it a sign?
The
or
road.
Does someone just pop out?
No, the road. That previous video that I was showing you, the road just stops.
No more.
There's literally just no more road. And then it's like, then it goes rocks, and then there's these great big things called sand dunes. And there is literally no feasible way past them. Even in a four-wheel drive, there is just no path through because the sand dunes, those big sand dunes, literally just encroach closer and closer to the beach until they occupy the beach. And because the beach isn't tidal on the surface, you've got a vertical sand dune like this going down to the beach, and the sand dunes just go into the desert. So there is another access from Angola. So you can actually road access most of their supplies in from the Angolan side. And they actually drive up here, cross the border at Pupa, go across and come down. Or they fly in. But obviously some things can't be flown in.